They call us the rent generation. Young people in the UK are renting more and more and buying less and less. And when we rent, we all want to find the right place to live in according to our budget. So we want to get the best deal for our money. But it would be much easier if if great homes at the right prices could stand out from the crowd of bad deals. What do you think? But let me tell you a little bit about my experience. In my first 3 years in London, I changed 12 different rented places. I moved 12 times in just 3 years. Also, my past business was capitalizing on holiday rentals, which means that we went through the process of renting from private landlords over and over again in just a few years. And by doing this over and over again, I came to one conclusion, that the current UK private letting market is so messed up, is so unregulated, which means that as of today, a private landlord has no limits on how much rent they can charge to a private tenant. Which means that if you are new to an area or don't know much about the property market, you might find yourself tied into a contract which is overcharging you by hundreds, if not thousands of pounds in rent every single year. And this is why we created TrueRent. TrueRent is an online rent discovery tool servicing tenants, landlords, and letting agents. Now, TrueRent helps tenants make better decisions when they're looking for a next place to live in, or when they even consider moving home. At the same time, TrueRent gives landlords and letting agents a new marketing tool, which will enhance trust, transparency, and trigger quicker deals. So within just 5 minutes and in 2 steps only, you'll be able to find out the true rental value of any property in the UK. Again, all it takes is 5 minutes of your time and just 2 steps. So let me bring you through these steps. First of all, we need to describe our apartment. There's a quick way to do it so by pasting a Zoopla or Rightmove URL into our tool, and we'll get all the information that we need for you. A second way would be by describing our place ourselves, so the place that we want to assess. So let's say we rent an apartment in East London with 2 bedrooms and 2 bathrooms or toilets, and let's say it's got 1 living room. So after we describe the place we want to assess, TrueRent is ready to load real properties with real people rented from real landlords. Now, I use the word real because all the data that we use is sourced directly through the Zoopla API. We have access to a bit more a bit more details and data than everybody else, because we strike a deal with Zoopla directly. And this is very important to say, because again, it's important to know that everything that you see on TrueRent is what the real world has been rented right now. So after you describe the property, TrueRent is ready to load real properties which real people rented. And now we will show you at this point the interiors, the pictures of what other people are renting. This is due to one simple fact. Say you are renting a 2-bedroom apartment in an ex-council estate. That will be very, very different in terms of prices and looks and interiors and features and so on, to a 2-bedroom apartment in an ex-council which is placed just across the street. Now, at this point you're asked to select what you feel is the most similar to what you're assessing. And after you do this for a few times, TrueRent is ready for its verdict. So it's ready to tell you whether that landlord is trying to overcharge you, or whether their asking price is fair and therefore in line with what other landlords have been charging for similar properties in the same area. So massive value for the tenant, who will now have a better understanding of what's available for themselves by just seeing what their neighbors have been renting in that same area. But I was talking about a new marketing tool for landlords and letting agents. Let's have a look at what this is all about. This is what we call the TrueRent certificate. Now, the TrueRent certificate is a way that landlords and agents, therefore sellers, have to rate their property so that they can scream to prospective tenants that what they ask for rent is what other people have been getting for similar properties in that area. So it's a massive tool that they can use to, again, enhance that initial trust, which is often missing between the seller and prospective tenants. So all it is a list of properties which you identify during the discovery process, and we save all these properties onto a property profile, which is publicly accessible at any time. You obviously get a unique URL for it, which you can include onto your listings on Zoopla, Gumtree, and so on. Or you can actually print out a visual certificate, which you can then post onto your agency wall or window. And then again, it's there to attract more prospective tenants in and hopefully finalize a deal quicker. Let's talk about the market size. So we're looking at over 7 million rented households across 2009 and 2010, of which 3.4 million were privately rented properties, which is where our market is. As I said at the beginning of the video, we are called the rent generation, which means that this figure went a little bit up in 2013, giving us an overall 4.2 million privately rented properties in 2013 alone. It is also important to say that the average tenancy for these properties, for the privately rented properties, is about 1 year. So we're talking about a massive market with, well, a very, very active market which we can capitalize. Let's talk now about how we capitalize this market. We identified 3 different ways of monetizing this business. First way would be by selling the true rent certificates, so the rating. We believe the certificates can be sold at £19 per certificate, giving us an overall total market of £80 million. Second way would be by selling quality leads to agents. So let's say you're a landlord, you use our discovery tool, you can obtain to be contacted after that by a local agent who will then market your property and obviously will pay us for that lead. A third way would be through advertisement on site. Talking about competitors, as of today in the UK, there's no one that does what we do. We do not consider property websites such as Zoopla or Rightmove as direct competitors. There's a company in the US which is called Rentometer.com. They only operate in the US market and their data source is very, very different from us. They basically get all their data by the inputs, the inquiries that users make on their websites. Therefore, they have no pictures, no real data, no much details, and so on. So they just don't do as well as we do. I encourage you to go and have a look on the website, rentometer.com. TrueRent will disrupt the current UK letting market. And we want to give great homes at the right prices that visibility that they didn't have before. So that we want really them to stand out from the crowd of bad deals, so the crowd of subletters, greedy landlords, deceiving agents, and so on. And in the end, we want to give us, young people in the UK, the rent generation, the ultimate tool, so that they can make better decisions and avoid being overcharged on their next 12 months tenancy. Thank you very much for your attention. If you have any questions, you can feel free to email me on info@truerent.co.uk. Thank you very much again. Goodbye.